Han Sen stood on the back of the Golden Worm King, dragging the huge iron hammer which was even heavier than the gold axe of the Bloody Slayer. With the hammer, Han Sen could not fly at all. He had to use the Golden Worm King to drag it along. The sacred blood creature was inedible, and Han Sen did not have much luck. Without the beast's soul, the sacred blood gear was his only trophy. When he eventually pulled the hammer out of the valley, Han Sen asked Huang Fu Pingqing, who was dazed, "Miss Huang Fu, how much do you think this sacred blood gear is worth?" Huang Fu Pingqing walked to him, reached out to lift the hammer, and failed. She slowly frowned. "This thing is too heavy. Those who had enough strength to use it would not need it, while those who did not have enough strength could not make any use of it. I would say it could sell at 4 to 5 million tops. And even with that price, we would need to find the right person to buy it. Several million is also quite some money. Whenever you have another auction, would you list it as one of the items?" Han Sen was short of money recently, and the several million was not a small number. "Of course. But you have said that you will buy me dinner, and that I'm counting on that," Huang Fu Pingqing said with a smile. "Of course," said Han Sen quickly. He understood that it was not easy to sell a sacred blood gear. Back then, when Qin Xian bought the golden axe, only a very strong man in the special squad could use it. This hammer was much heavier than the golden axe, and it would be very difficult to find a buyer for it. "Did you get the beast's soul? If you have got it and will not use it, I could sell them at the same time. Best price guaranteed." Huang Fu Pingqing blinked and said, "No luck. I did not get the beast's soul."
Han Sen shrugged.
Huang Fu Pingqing did not ask again, nor did she continue to march into the Devil Desert. With such a heavy gear, they needed to go back to Steel Armor Shelter. After signing the contract with Huang Fu Pingqing, Han Sen sent the hammer over to hers. Before Han Sen made it back to school, he was summoned by Qin Xian. When he saw her, he felt something must be off. The entire team of the special squad in Steel Armor Shelter were present, which was rare. Young Monli's face was dark. Gambler and those who were friends with Han Sen were blinking at him, and Han Sen was not sure what they meant. "Sit down, please." Qin Xian asked him to sit and looked across the room. She said, "In a month I will be able to finish my first evolution and enter Second God's Sanctuary and need to make the transfer now." She paused and looked at young Monli. "I have recommended young Monli to become the head of Steel Armor Gang." She then looked at Han Sen and said, "As for the head of the special squad, I would like to nominate Han Sr." Han Sen was surprised and did not expect this to happen. Now he came to understand why young Monli's face was dark. Although it sounded like the head of the gang was more powerful, it was not a formal organization. On the other hand, the special squad was in the military system. Being a member of the special squad, young Monli would actually be under Han Sen's supervision. As for the Steel Armor Gang, Han Sen did not go there again after he entered the military school. Young Monli had thought that based on her ability and qualifications, she should naturally become the new head of the special squad. However, she did not realize that Qin Xian would recommend Han Sen to become the next head. Han Sen was very glad to see young Monli being upset. He had never liked her, but being her subordinate, he had to listen to her. Now, he had become her boss. "I believe I am the better candidate for the head of the special squad," said young Monli. "This is already decided. It is an order. I will hear no discussion about it," said Qin Xian and got up. "Okay, this is the end of this meeting. Han Sen and young Monli, you two stay. The rest of you could go back to work." Han Sen's friends gave Han Sen a secret thumb up and left the conference room. "Young Monli, I should have nominated you as the new head of the squad, but you do have a temper. Just focus on the gang and try to evolve as soon as possible," Qin Xian said softly. Young Monli was more than her subordinate. "I believe I have what it takes," young Monli said sullenly. "Han Sen, what do you think?" Qin Xian looked to Han Sen and asked. "I will not let you down," Han Sen said resolutely. At last he was able to boss young Monli around, and that he would never let this opportunity go. In addition, being the head of the special squad also had its benefits. Not only could he utilize the human resources within the squad, he could also make connections with the upper level. The pay was much better as well. More importantly, as the head of the special squad, he had the authority to purchase internally. Not only could he now access Sacred Blood Beast Souls and S-Class St. Hall licenses, he could enjoy the discounted price. In the entire squad, the head was the only one who could enjoy this. Great. Qin Xian smiled and nodded, and then turned to Yang Manli. Since you think you are the better candidate, you two can have a competition. If you could win, then I will take back my decision and recommend you instead. Okay, I will take any competition and will never lose to him. Yang Manli immediately stood up. She used to be the instructor of Han Sen in archery and did not believe that she would lose to him. Not only archery, Yang Manli did not think she would lose to him in anything. Since you are both good at archery, let's do archery. Qin Xian asked Han Sen, do you have any objections? None. I could compete on anything but having a baby, said Han Sen with a smile. Yang Manli gave him a fierce stare. He was implying that she couldn't do much except for giving birth to a child. Then let's go to the virtual training field, said Qin Xian and walked out. After going back to school, Han Sen went to the holographic equipment hall and entered the virtual training field designated by Qin Xian. Qin Xian did not ask them to have the competition in the training field of the shelter, for she did not want anyone else to find out about the result. No matter who lost, the person would suffer in his or her honor, which was not something Qin Xian was willing to see, because they were both future leaders that she had handpicked. Han Sen logged into the platform called Sagittarius, a virtual archery community. After logging in, he was assigned to the unevolved section. Qin Xian and Yang Manli were already there, and Han Sen quickly sent friend requests to both of them. Qin then invited Han Sen to enter the game room. This is one of the classical game rooms on Sagittarius. It is called Whitebird's Forest. You will see a path in the forest 2 miles long. When you go through the path, there will be black and white birds on the trees. You cannot shoot the white birds, but only the black ones. If you mistakenly shoot a white bird, you will be out, and we will decide who the winner is based on the number of the black birds you shoot. If your numbers are the same, the winner will be the one who finishes faster. Do you have any questions? After explaining, Qin Xian looked at them. No, answered Yang Manli and Han Sen at the same time. Okay, you shall begin now. Han Sen and Yang Manli started their test respectively and entered the Whitebird's forest. Although Qin Xian did not want anyone to know the results of this competition, an acquaintance happened to see both of them when they entered Sagittarius. Su Xiaoqiao often went to Sagittarius to practice his archery, despite his carefree appearance. Sagittarius was obviously more fun than shooting at a target. When Su Xiaoqiao had just finished his practice, he saw Qin Xian, Han Sen, and Yang Manli at the same time and was very shocked. How come the three of them would log in on Sagittarius at the same time? What are they trying to do? Su Xiaoqiao suddenly became curious and followed them into the game room. The game room was open to everyone, but after one entered the scene, it would become a unique experience for the player. Su Xiaoqiao saw Han Sen and Yang Manli had both started the Whitebird's forest test and hesitated. He could use the observing mode and pay to watch one of them. However, he was alone and it was impossible for him to watch both. Su Xiaoqiao only paused for a moment before he chose to watch Han Sen's test. It was not because Su Xiaoqiao thought Han Sen was the better archer, but because everyone in Bullseye knew how great Yang Manli was. Su Xiaoqiao was not sure how well Han Sen could do, so he was intrigued to see Han Sen's test. After entering the observing mode, Su Xiaoqiao saw Han Sen waiting to begin the test. Su Xiaoqiao was familiar with this game room and had trained here before as well. This was a scene easy and difficult at the same time. Anyone could easily pass the challenge by running through without shooting any white bird. However, if one was fast but did not shoot many blackbirds, one's score would be very low. And if one killed the blackbirds slowly, one would still get a low score. Also, the scene was set in the nighttime and the forest was very dark, so some blackbirds would blend in the darkness and it was easy to miss them. Some blackbirds flew very fast and sometimes in different directions, which was very challenging for the archer's reflex time. In addition, many white birds would suddenly appear to increase the difficulty. Once a white bird was shot, the game would be over and the archer would not even get a score. According to the system setting, there were 1,000 blackbirds in the Whitebird's forest, and their location and direction were all random. There was no pattern to follow. Therefore, it was almost impossible to guarantee the accuracy and the speed at the same time. Luckily, in this game room, the arrows were unlimited. In real life, carrying 1,000 arrows alone was tiring enough. Su Xiaoqiao would normally get a D rating, and occasionally C. If one could kill more than 90% of the blackbirds and guarantee one's speed, one could be rated A. As for the highest rating, S, almost no one could achieve that. No white birds allowed, and all blackbirds must be killed, no miss and fast. One would have to satisfy all these conditions to get an S. In the entire history of Sagittarius, only one person had gotten an S in the unevolved white birds forest. That person was a professional archer trained since childhood and was now the best archery coach in the military. Although Han Sen is much better than me in archery, I don't believe he could get A. His level should be AB. While Su Xiaoqiao was calculating what kind of score Han Sen could get, he started to record this test. At this time, the countdown ended, and Han Sen embarked on the path of the white birds forest. The moment he started walking, he had already shot an arrow. It seemed like he did not even look. Also, he was shooting nonstop while walking. There was barely any interval between his arrows, which went in all directions. Qin Xian also chose to watch Han Sen's test. Yang Monli was her subordinate and best friend, and she did not need to watch to know her skills. All she wanted to find out was whether or not Han Sen could give her another surprise. Having done detailed analysis and research on the guy, she was surprised by his potentials. He was from an ordinary family and was able to get this far. Other people might think that Han Sen had benefited a lot from her help, but Qin Xian herself knew very well that his achievements were all accomplished on his own. Even the help she had offered to him was because of his contributions. If Qin Xian had not hypnotized him to learn the truth, she would strongly suspect that Han Sen was dollar. Although Yang Monli is very powerful, she is not the best leader. And Han Sen is much better in that regard. Qin Xian sighed. It was not an easy position to be in, pressured from the upper and lower level at the same time. If Qin Xian could choose, she would rather be just a soldier whose only responsibility was to fight. But since she was put on the spot, she had to shoulder her responsibilities. I hope he will not let me down. Qin Xian did not want Han Sen to lose, because if Yang Monli was to take over the squad, she might run into crisis being so straightforward. Qin Xian believed that Han Sen was the better candidate to take care of all kinds of issues. When the test began, all Qin Xian's attention was attracted by Han's senator. She was unable to move her eyes from him.
Wow, Han Sen is awesome! Exclaimed Su Xiaoqiao.
He had seen many videos of this game room, but had never seen anything quite like this. Normally speaking, no matter how fast one would have to pause in the process of shooting. However, Su Xiaoqiao could not see any pause in Han Sen's movements and steps. Every step Han Sen took, an arrow would fly out like lightning bolt, piercing a blackbird's body. Those arrows looked like they had life and could always hit the target. No matter where the blackbirds were, the arrows could always pierce their bodies. In the darkness of the forest, there was no miss. Even in a flock of both black and white birds, the arrows could always find the black ones and never hurt any white. Some arrows seemed like they were shot aimlessly, but eventually hit the blackbirds hidden in the trees. Su Xiaoqiao felt like he was watching a movie, an action movie that made him feel hot. He wished that he could join his friend and take up his bow and arrow. This is amazing. Unbelievable. Su Xiaoqiao clenched his fists and thoroughly enjoyed himself. Qin Xian was extremely shocked. Although Qin Xian was not a great archer, her eyesight was much better than Su Xiaoqiao's, so that she could notice more details that escaped Su Xiaoqiao. Han Sen almost started shooting immediately since the beginning, and Qin Xian never saw his arrows miss. He never hurt any white bird. Sometimes, Qin Xian only saw the blackbirds after he shot the arrows. Some arrows were significantly slower than others and did not even aim at the blackbirds in the beginning. However, the arrows would always end up in the bodies of blackbirds. If it was occasional, Qin Xian would not be impressed, but she had seen the situation happening repeatedly. His judgment, eyesight, and archery were all super impressive, Qin Xian had to admit. Han Sen was indeed a natural in archery. He was more than accurate. The judgment he made allowed him to achieve excellence. If Qin Xian had to describe Han Sen's archery, then she would say that he was using his brain to shoot his arrows. One could practice on one's accuracy and strength, but hardly one's level of understanding. Without any error, Han Sen walked across the forest non-stop. This is not real. Su Xiaoqiao suddenly realized something as he saw the exit was closer and closer. He did not see a single miss from Han Sen, but he was not sure if Han Sen had missed any blackbirds. If there was no miss, when Han Sen reached the exit, he might be able to get a legendary S rating. Even Qin Xian got nervous. Although young Monli was very strong, she could only get an A rating. If Han Sen were to be rated S, there was no doubt that young Monli would lose. This was a result that Qin Xian was willing to see. After all, if a leader of the team did not have the absolute authority, the stability of the team would be endangered. If Han Sen was able to beat young Monli in her strongest field archery, he would be able to establish the necessary authority to deter young Monli from questioning his ability. Young Monli was very satisfied with her performance. She had outdone herself because of her strong desire to beat Han Sen and prove herself to Qin Xian. Although she was still rated A, her score was among the top in a level. She had killed much more blackbirds and had also increased her speed by 3 minutes. As young Monli walked out of the test scene, she saw that both Qin Xian and Han Sen were there and thought, "He is out so early," which meant he was even faster than me. Then he must have not killed enough blackbirds or have even shot a white one. Here's my score. Young Monli directly demonstrated her report to Qin Xian. A level, 964 blackbirds killed. Well done. You've made a huge progress by only missing 36. Qin Xian read the statistics in the report and complimented. Indeed, a score like this was outstanding him on the unevolved. So, Qin Xian thought secretly, young Monli would have been invincible in steel armor shelter. It's just there is Han Sr. How about you? Young Monli asked Han Senator. She was not happy that her position was stolen by a teenager. Han Sen did not speak and showed her his report. With only one look, young Monli suddenly narrowed her eyes and looked incredulous. A golden S on the report told her that she had lost. He must have killed all 1,000 blackbirds, and he was also faster than her. How is that possible? Young Monli could not believe that Han Sen was so strong. Half a year ago, she trained him, and he had made such progress in just 6 months. S level. Many professional archers would not even be able to get such a rating. Although Han Sen was in the archery department, his progress was still awe-inspiring. According to young Monli's knowledge, Han Sen was in the Warframe contest and black and white boxing competition. He even starred a commercial. How much time did he have left to practice archery? Young Monli regarded Han Senator no matter how reluctant she was to admit this fact. The fact is the fact. S level. She could not even try to compete. All right. This is a done deal then. Qin Xian did not say much, but felt satisfied with Han Sen's performance secretly. However, she was not willing to put young Monli down, so she did not pay him any compliment. She also knew that compliments did not really work on this guy. When the three left the online community, Su Xiaoqiao was still thrilled, watching the video he just took. I had never thought Han Sen's archery skills are so strong. Su Xiaoqiao watched the video repeatedly and could not stop. The Hunting Frenzy was like the best movie, full of excellent frames. Han Sen's figure stood aloof and cold, and his movements smooth and perfect. Without any edit, this video was comparable to any well-designed movie. You're keeping such a secret from me. Now it's time for a punishment. Su Xiaoqiao grinned and uploaded the video to the farm of Sagittarius. He also named it S level, Whitebird's Forest. Su Xiaoqiao hesitated for a second and still blurred the facial features of Han Sen to protect his identity. S level? For real? I don't believe it's real. Many watched the video with suspicion and started a heated discussion in the forum. This is unbelievable. Must be special effect. I just checked on the official website. In this test was indeed rated S. Super. How did he do it? I watched more than 10 times and could not stop myself.
I'm totally hooked.
Who is this person? I cannot stop watching this. Help. I'll go help you after watching 10 more times. The video soon caught the website management's attention and was stickied. It became so popular that many evolvers heard about this video and came to check it out. After all, evolvers were unevolved once, and they had all practiced in Whitebird's Forest and never heard of an S rating. The evolvers also felt shocked after watching the video. This person's archery skills were beyond their imagination, although his speed and strength might not be as strong as theirs. They could not even guarantee no miss with such a speed. This was simply too demanding on one's techniques. No error allowed. After all, a person was not a machine, and how could you expect absolutely no mistake? This person in the video did not hesitate at all. It looked like he did not even look at his targets. This incredible control and confidence were beyond strength and speed. This must be fake. Is he actually so strong? Unbelievable. It's absolutely real, since the official website has recognized it. Who is him? Yang Monli also saw the video. Because of the timestamp of the video, it was easy for her to tell that it was Han Sen in it. Looking at Han Sen, Yang Monli got goosebumps. This kind of performance would be any archer's ultimate pursuit. He was more than accurate. It was like he could predict everything. No matter for archers or snipers, the toughest thing was never the accuracy, but the judgment under complex situations. Obviously, Han Sen was one of the best archers she had seen in this aspect. He did not aim at any target when he made the shot, but was able to tell where the target was going to be. Yang Monli felt a chill. If she and Han Sen were shooting at each other, she might not even be able to make a single shot. It was a feeling hard to describe. Qin Xian was right. He is a natural, thought Yang Monli, after finishing watching the video. The video was very popular in Sagittarius, but its popularity ended among archery lovers. Archery was, after all, a less popular skill, and Sagittarius was just one of the circles of archery. After going back to school, Han Sen wanted to call his girlfriend when his comlink suddenly rang. Situ Xiang was summoning all the archery team members. At the training field of the school team, Han Sen saw Shi Zhikong, Lu Ming, and Zhang Yang, who were also summoned by Situ Xiang. Han Sen, so you're also in school team? Asked Shi Zhikong with a smile. I have to contribute to my department. Why are you here? Said Han Sen casually. Same reason. When Situ Xiang reviewed Han Sen's file, she studied the profiles of all the other specially recruited students again, wondering if she could find anyone that had escaped her attention like Han Sen did. In the end, she decided to ask Han Sen's roommates to join the team and get them a training. Even if they were not good enough this year, they would excel next year. Do you know why the coach have called us here? Han Sen asked his roommates. Who knows? We are on the same page, said Shi. The coach has of course called us here to train. Now that we are all in the school team, we have to earn honors for Blackhawk. Zhang Yang was positive as ever. When Han Sen wanted to say something, Situ Xiang blew the whistle to call them over. Today I have summoned you to show you some recordings of a student who will become one of your rivals this year. Situ Xiang turned the holographic device on and projected the video. It was an edited video of one person shooting at different times, and most of the scenes were shot in the venue of the Military School League tournament. In more than 40 minutes, the entire school team was so quiet that one could even hear a needle dropping on the floor. After the video ended, Shi Zhikong wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and said, OMG, are you sure this guy is just a military school student instead of an evolver professional archer? We are against him?
Impossible.
We'll definitely lose. He must not be human. He is our opponent and absolutely a military school student, said Lu Ming casually. Situ Xiang was interested in Lu Ming's answer and said, since you know this person, please introduce him to your teammates. Lu Ming said naturally, I believe you have all heard of him, Jing Jiwu, the captain of the archery team of Alliance Central Military Academy. People call him Monster. In his freshman year, he had led their archery team to become the champion of the tournament. Since his sophomore year, he had helped the Alliance Central Military Academy win every competition from Warframe to martial arts to Hand of God, with no exception. In his junior year, he did exactly the same thing. The Military Academy League had changed its rules because of him. Now one player is only allowed to participate in one field. Such bad luck. How come Jing Jiwu happened to pick archery? You're getting ahead of yourself. Based on our strength, it is not likely that we would ever compete with the Alliance Central Military Academy. It does not even matter how strong Jing Jiwu is. That is true. We could barely enter the second round in the previous tournaments. I really hope to encounter him. We will lose anyway. Better to him than to someone else. The senior members of the school team commented casually. Obviously, they had lost confidence and spirit in years of failure. You know a lot about Jing Jiwu? So how likely do you think we could beat the Alliance Central Military Academy? Asked Situ Xiang. We stand absolutely no chance. They not only had Jing Jiwu, but 2 of their team members ranked top 10, and the other 2 ranked top 20. However, we do not have anyone that ranks top 100, said Lu Meng bluntly. The senior team members all felt Situ Xiang's question was not practical. They would not even have a chance to face the Alliance Central Military Academy, so the presumption would not even happen. Situ Xiang nodded and did not say anything. She turned to Han Sen and asked, Han Sen, what do you think? We can only know after a match, replied Han Sen with a smile. The senior team members cast odd looks at him. If the comment was from any other freshman, they would definitely tell the person all about the bad performances of Blackhawk in history. However, it was Han Sen who said it, so they remained silent. After all, Han Sen was the genius on campus and had achieved great success in other items. Deep down, they still felt contemptuous about what Han Sen had said. Situ Xiang was satisfied with Han Sen's remark. She was glad to see that at least one person had morale on her team. Blackhawk had been a loser for so long that it was natural for the senior team members to lose confidence. We will watch another video, also from an unevolved person. Situ Xiang played another video, the background of which was a virtual gaming platform. It is the White Bird's Forest from Sagittarius. Someone suddenly recognized that. When the video started to play, Han Sen was surprised. It was the video of him taking the White Bird's Forest test. Who is this person? That's so impressive. Shi Zhikong stared his eyes wide. This must be edited. Is he really an unevolved person? Is that also Jing Jiwu? I have seen that. It is a real video and has been recognized by Sagittarius. I've also been to the scene and was no match to that. Who is he? It is not important who he is. Do you think he's weaker than Jing Jiwu? Asked Situ Xiang. It is hard to say without a match. Everyone started to ponder. Jing Jiwu was indeed strong, but the person in the video was equally good. It was very hard to tell who was the better archer. Since someone is Jing Jiwu's match, why can't that be you? Asked Situ Xiang. No one replied. The teammates were all thinking, how is it possible that we have that kind of skills? Although they all understood Situ Xiang's intention, they became even more depressed after seeing how good other people were. Han Sen, do you think this person is stronger than you? Situ Xiang asked Han Senator she wanted Han Sen to lead the team in this tournament. If he did not have the resolve to win, she would have to reconsider despite his good skills. I should be on more or less the same level. Han Sen cleared his throat and answered. It was him in the video, so of course it was the same. Han Sen was still wondering who had leaked the video. Fortunately, his facial features were blurred, and no one could tell it was him. He did not think it was Qin Xian, but who else would watch his test and record it? Han Sen did not mind either. It was fine if someone found out it was him. Han Sen's comment sounded arrogant to others. The level of the guy in the video was clearly beyond that of a monitoring school student. Although Han Sen did well in Warframe and black and white boxing, he rarely went to archery classes. Like what Situ Xiang was thinking before, his teammates felt unsure about Han Sen's archery skills and were reluctant to believe that he had the same skill level. Situ Xiang was satisfied with his answer. She thought he was confident, which was a great quality for someone to lead the team. The senior team members were also good players, and they often lost because of their lack of confidence. Fantastic. This year, our goal is to beat the Alliance Central Military Academy. So, let's work toward that. Then Situ Xiang announced the training plan and asked each player to follow through. Han Sen, do you really think you can do the same? Zhang Yang asked Han Sen on their way back to the dormitory. Shi Zhikong and Lu Meng also looked to Han Sen, interested to hear his reply. Which video are you talking about?
Han Sen asked.
How about Jing Jiwu's? Zhang Yang widened his eyes. It sounded like Han Sen thought he could match both. Jing Jiwu's skills are hard to match. His fitness index is too high, and I lack in physical strength compared to him. After watching Jing Jiwu's video, Han Sen also thought he was a formidable opponent. His techniques did not seem fancy, but were extremely practical. In addition, he had an outstanding physique. Therefore, no one would be his match. Han Sen's physique was among the top in the unevolved category, but compared to Jing Jiwu, he was not as good. Currently, Han Sen's sacred and mutant geno points were not maxed out yet, and his jade skin had not even reached the first phase. If he could improve on those two aspects, he should be able to beat Jing Jiwu. Han Sen, are you really as strong as the person in the Whitebird's forest? Shi Zhikong couldn't help but ask. As a student in the archery department, Shi Zhikong knew how difficult it must be. It was the ultimate goal of any archer. More or less, Han Sen shrugged and said helplessly. If you will, we should go take the test here on campus, so that the senior team members would stop their bulls, Shi Zhikong said with anger. Although the senior team members did not say much at the time, secretly they commented on Han Sen's arrogance, which pissed Shi Zhikong off. It is unnecessary to prove anything to strangers. At the time of the match, the truth will speak for itself, said Lu Meng reasonably. Zhang Yang also nodded. We should ignore them now and practice hard. If the school sends us, we will show them Lu Meng is not impossible in the tournament. Shi Zhikong had to give up the idea of taking Han Sen to take the test. Han Sen, do you have a minute? A sensual female voice sounded when they were going back to the dormitory. Han Sen's roommates all widened their eyes, staring at Huangfu Pingqing, who had walked up to Han Sen. What's the matter?
asked Han Sen reluctantly.
Have you forgotten what you have promised me? Huangfu Pingqing smiled and asked. She then turned to his roommates. Do you mind if I borrow him for a second? Not at all.
Shi Zhikong blinked at Han Sen.
Han Sen remembered that he had promised to treat her to dinner. Now that she had even come to him, he had no other option than to follow her. First hooked up with our campus belle, now the new goddess. How come I never got lucky? Said Shi Zhikong admiringly. Because your skin isn't as smooth. Why would the pretty ladies like a rough guy like you? Lu Meng tried to put him down. When the beauties get older, they would understand the benefits of being with the rough guy, rebutted Sam. Lu Meng threw a contemptuous gaze at Sam, who was tough-looking and full of dirty jokes. Aren't we going to eat? Why are we here? Han Sen felt suspicious and looked to Huangfu Pingqing. They were now at the gate of the military school. Without permission, it was impossible to leave the campus. We are going to eat. Take this. Huangfu Pingqing gave Han Sen a pass and led him out of the campus. The guard checked the pass and let them go. The minute they were out of the school, a private aircraft parked in front of Huangfu Pingqing. Huangfu, where are you taking me? Han Sen frowned and asked. I said we're going to eat. Huangfu Pingqing held Han Sen's arm and took him onto the aircraft. Han Sen felt his arm was in between clouds. He looked down and saw Huangfu Pingqing was wearing a white turtleneck jersey, showing off her curvaceous figure. After 40 minutes, the aircraft landed on a magnificent dome-shaped building. Holding Han Sen's arm, Huangfu Pingqing swiped her card and entered the building. Han Sen checked the name on the building, and it was really a restaurant called Queen, and next to the name were 3 stars. Huangfu Pingqing took Han Sen to a private room on the top floor. The declaration of this room was a bit strange, different from a regular restaurant. The sofa was crescent-shaped, facing a wall covered by a curtain. The table was also an arc facing the wall. As Han Sen was wondering, Huangfu Pingqing had sat down on the sofa and took the remote to open the curtain. Behind the curtain, the wall was made of one-way glass, and they were actually on the balcony. When looking down, they could see a gigantic martial ring. On the martial ring, a heated combat was going on. Outside the ring was a cheering and shouting crowd. With another click on the remote, the sound could suddenly be heard. What do you want to order? Huangfu Pingqing clicked the remote again, and the holographic images of different dishes and prices were all projected. It's my treat, so you should order. Han Sen was completely attracted to the 2 persons in the combat. There were both evolvers, and it looked like they had already gained a lot of geno points. They both had practiced great hyper-geno arts. The man had both his arms looking like black metal, and the woman was wearing a pair of shorts, with her long legs gleaming like silver. One used fists and the other legs. They both had extraordinary strength and speed. Whenever there is the flesh-on-flesh clash, it sounded like metal. Han Sen was strong among the unevolved. Compared to these evolvers, he still fell short. After all, they had different status. The hyper-geno arts used by the 2 also interested Han Sen very much, especially those that could change body cell structure. Those arts could make one's body as tough as a weapon, and one could even bare-handedly smash a tank. but they were not without flaws. Both the arms of the man and the legs of the woman could not stay like metal continuously. Every other minute, they would become normal flesh. Huang Fu, where is this? When the food was delivered, Han Sen asked curiously. The Queen Restaurant is a business owned by the Ares Martial Hall. It is a combat-themed restaurant. Every day, Stevens from the Ares Martial Hall come here to perform. That not only boosts our business, but also promotes the Martial Hall. Huang Fu Pingqing smiled and said, You went through all the trouble to take me here. It could not only be for dinner.
Han Sen commented.
Taking him out of the school alone was a lot of trouble. Would you plan to do after graduation? Asked Huang Fu Pingqing, without answering Han Sen's doubt. What plan could I have? I am in the military school and I will naturally be enlisted, Han Sen said casually. Huang Fu Pingqing poured Han Sen a glass of wine and herself one. After taking a sip of the wine, she continued, Ordinary military school graduates would be second lieutenant or lieutenant, and for you, it would be easy for you to become a major. You flatter me, said Han Sen with a smile. A major would be the highest rank any military school student can be. So, do you plan to serve the army always, or just finish your mandate-serving term? Asked Huang Fu Pingqing again. I haven't planned that far, said Han Senator. Although the special school that belonged to the military, its functions were limited to God's sanctuary, and it would not have any impact on Han Sen's official ranking. If you decide to work for the army, you should consider drawing the Ares Martial Hall. We have many alumni in the military right now, and they would be a huge help to you. Han Sen had understood Huang Fu's intentions by now. When he was about to say something, Huang Fu Pingqing smiled and said, There is no hurry. You still have years until you graduate, and can take your time considering. Someone looking like a manager suddenly knocked on the door and bowed to Huang Fu Pingqing. Miss, we have prepared everything as you asked. After the manager left, Huang Fu Pingqing smiled at Han Sen and asked, Do you know why this restaurant is named Queen? Han Sen shook his head and thought, How am I supposed to know that? I'm not part of your organization. Because there is a real queen here, Huang Fu Pingqing said seriously. Queen.
Han Sen paused.
There was no queen in the alliance. The highest political figure was the president, followed by the senators and generals. Not the queen of the alliance, but the queen on the martial ring, explained Huang Fu Pingqing, pointing to the martial ring. Han Sen then noticed that the two evolvers had left of the ring, and a host had walked to the center and said in an excited voice, Now the highlight of the evening, the queen of ours will fight her 1000th combat. Will her highness remain undefeated? Let's wait and see. Please welcome the queen to the stage. Next, the lights were off in the entire martial ring, and the only spotlight hit on a tall woman in combat suit. She walked towards the ring wearing a butterfly mask to cover her face. She was about 6 feet tall and looked like a fierce weapon herself. The moment the woman walked out, all the audience started to cheer and calling her name with the same rhythm. The woman stood on the ring, raising her left arm and pointing her index finger and middle finger to the sky. With this gesture, the audience started to stand up and the atmosphere has become much heated. Today challenging Her Royal Highness is Su Jiqiang from the Iron Fist Martial Hall. With the introduction by the host, a man around 30 years old also came to the martial ring. Han Sen did not listen to the host, but kept her eyes on the woman who was called the Queen. She had such a fierce manner that it looked like she had seen a million deaths. Han Sen himself also had a fierce vibe, but compared to her, it was nothing. When Han Sen was regarding Queen, the combat began and Su Jiqiang turned his fists into golden alloy and smashed them at Queen. The strike was fast and fierce, compressing the air as it went. Even with Han Sen's eyesight, he could not tell how Su Jiqiang started the strike. Han Sen thought to himself, Indeed, I am no match to strong evolvers. This is such a formidable strike. This was the famous Super Alloy Fist, an S-class hyper-geno art of the evolver section in the St. Hall. Even among revolvers, only a few could use it well. This man was obviously much stronger than the last man. Soon Han Sen discovered that what Su Jiqiang was best at was not his fist, but his footwork. His footwork was so fast that he approached Queen in just 2 steps. He also managed to make the fiercest strike in her weakest angle. Queen did not even move, letting the fist tougher than iron hit her temple.
Bang!
The fierce strike hit the woman's temple, only making her head move slightly. Very soon, she recovered and gazed at Su Jiqiang with coldness. Su Jiqiang looked incredulous. He could not believe that his signature could not even hurt this woman. My turn. Queen raised her left hand shaped like a knife, her white skin suddenly turning red. Seeing her raising her hand, Su Jiqiang could no longer take the pressure and summoned his beast souls. His upper body was suddenly covered in armor, and a long knife appeared in his hands. With a growl, Su Jiqiang smacked at Queen with his knife. Like a lightning bolt, the blade was about to cut Queen. Her eyes cold, Queen did not mean to dodge. When the knife was in her face, she suddenly waved her hand at it. Her hand met the beast soul blade and the weapon broke in the middle, as if it were made of wood. And her hand did not even stop there, and moved past Su Jiqiang. Crack! Su Jiqiang's beast soul armor was broken, blood flowing from the gap. Queen moved her fingers, and her hand became normal again. Su Jiqiang thumped to the martial ring and never got up. In the cheering of the audience, the medical team immediately rushed over and tried to save Su Jiqiang. Queen raised 2 fingers to the sky again, giving rise to even louder cheers. Then she walked off the martial ring and disappeared in the channel. Han Sen's eyes lit up. He had seen many videos of the combats between evolvers, but none of them was as good as Queen. Obviously, Queen was among the top evolvers. In the 1,000 combats, she never lost to a single person from any other martial hall. She is the queen here, and our best student. If you are willing to join the Ares Martial Hall, you could enjoy the same cultivation that she went through. You have great talents and might even do better than she, Huangfu Pingqing said with a smile. She must not be just an ordinary student. Han Sen refused to believe that Queen was an ordinary student at the Martial Hall. Of course not. And if you are willing, you could become extraordinary as well. She blinked. How? If you marry me and become related with the Ares Martial Hall, then you would certainly be extraordinary. Han Sen choked on the water he just drank.
Han Sen, unevolved.
Status: none. Lifespan: 200. Geno points needed for evolution: 100. Geno points gained: 100 ordinary Geno points, 100 primitive Geno points, 64 mutant Geno points, 50 sacred Geno points. Han Sen came to the steel armor shelter and checked his data. He still needed some mutant Geno points. Since sacred Geno points were hard to come by, he thought he would hunt for some mutant creatures first. As for Huangfu Pingqing's invite, Han Sen was not that interested. Queen was indeed outstanding, but he did not believe that it was the result of the cultivation from the Ares Martial Hall. What made her different was her own personality. Was a strong woman. In the entire alliance, I am still too weak and must go to Second God's Sanctuary as soon as possible, thought Han Sen as he walked out the shelter, ready to hunt some mutant creatures. After leaving the shelter, he looked around and suddenly saw a red rope tied on a crooked tree. This was the signal he told Lu Weinan. At the time, he was only saying it casually and did not really want to cooperate with Lu Weinan. After all, they had fought each other, and Han Sen could not be sure that Lu Weinan would not hold a grudge. Han Sen had almost forgotten about it, but was reminded by the sight of the red rope. It was supposed to be Han Sen who left the signal, so Lu Weinan's behavior alerted Han Sen. Han Sen was interested to know what Lu Weinan was up to. He waited until nightfall and used the color shifter beast soul to approach the tree. Surprisingly, there were no traps. Han Sen saw that a note was tied to the tree. He took it out and saw a location written on it, which was in a mountain not far from the shelter. Han Sen paused for a while and still went to the said location. Even if Lu Weinan was trying to harm him, he needed to figure out why. If he was watched but did not know the reason, he would not feel comfortable. Luckily, he had the color shifter beast soul. At the said location, he hid himself and walked around. There was no trap, but Lu Weinan was under a tree. It looked like Lu was quite anxious. Why are you looking for me? Han Sen turned into dollar and walked to Lu Weinan. Brother, you have come finally. I've waited for you for so long. Lu Weinan came over excitedly. What do you need?
Han Sen frov ned.
Brother, I found a sacred blood creature in Dark Swamp, but I was not able to kill it, so I want your help. Lu Weinan explained everything. Lu Weinan had been waiting for Han Sen for several days. He could not take care of the sacred blood creature, but he did not want to seek the gang's help either, because the gangs would take a big cut. That's when he thought of Han Sen and left the signal. When he was about to give up, Han Sen really came. What? You found a humanoid sacred blood creature? Han Sen stared, his eyes wide. Yes, it was covered in black armor and was holding a black spear in its hand. It was riding a black unicorn horse, which could float above the swamp, Lu Weinan described. A spear and a mount. What kind of creature is that? Are you sure you did not see a human?
Han Sen looked at Lu Weinan incredulously.
Brother, I kid you not. Although it looks like a person, you will see that it is definitely a sacred blood creature. So did you fight it? What's the outcome?
Han Sen asked Lu Weinan.
Lu Weinan blushed. It was too strong and its mount too fast. I had to use my iron-feathered bird to escape. Han Sen suddenly understood that Lu Weinan must have been completely beaten, and that was why he had come to Han Sen. So if I could kill the sacred blood creature, how do you suggest we divide the gains? Asked Han Sen. Whoever gains the beast soul gets to keep it. As for others, I think that humanoid would be inedible, and all there is to share are its spear and mount. What do you say we each pick one, and I will let you pick first? Lu Weinan asked. Take me to check it out first. If I could kill it, then we can talk about how to divide. If not, then it doesn't even matter. Han Sen thought about it and said, Okay. Lu Weinan gritted his teeth and agreed. Han Sen did not kill him last time, which gave him some faith in Han Sen's character. If he were talking to another person, he would not show that person the creature first, as the information was his value in the deal. Han Sen carried the diamond sword from Holy Angel and followed Lu Weinan to Dark Swamp. Lu Weinan was leading the way on his flying mount, and Han Sen was flying using his wings. Half a day into the swamp, Han Sen found a mutant centipede more than 6 feet long. He cut the centipede in half with the diamond sword and cooked the insect for some mutant geno points. The tough shell of the centipede was like tofu under the diamond sword. Lu Weinan saw the sword and his eyes lit up. Brother, this must be the sacred blood gear from that creature on Mystery Island? Did you manage to get its beast soul? You know your stuff. I did not get the beast soul, replied Han Sen casually and summoned Meowth to share the meat. Han Sen did not turn Meowth into its transformed state. It still looked like a kitty cat, eating meat at Han Sen's feet. Such a pity that I cannot summon the Golden Rock Worm King, thought Han Senator. The Worm King was always with Han Sen instead of Dollar, so he did not want to blow his own cover. Brother, you're still feeding it? Lu Weinan thought the cat was harmless as before and reached out to touch its head. Roar! Before his hand could touch Meowth, the cat suddenly turned into the transformed state, a black tiger, biting at Lu Weinan. Lu Weinan was indeed great at escaping. Using his incredible footwork, he was able to take back his hand and run from the tiger. Meowth had already thrown itself at Lu Weinan and was ready to launch another attack. Meowth, come back to eat.
Han Sen kalled.
He was counting on Lu Weinan to lead the way and did not want him to be killed. Lu Weinan pointed at Meowth and shouted, Isn't it mutant beast soul pet? How come? Han Sen did not reply and continued to eat. Lu Weinan suddenly understood. It evolved. Lu Weinan shot an envious glance at Meowth and said, Brother, you are so lucky. Even your mutant pet has evolved. Now it must be more valuable than any other sacred blood beast soul. Yes, I was lucky. Han Sen thought to himself, if you see Holy Angel, you would know what a truly valuable pet looks like. Thinking of Holy Angel, Han Sen was a little upset. He had tried to feed her mutant meat, and she would not even look at it. When Han Sen was eating sacred blood meat, she became very interested. Unfortunately, Han Sen couldn't afford to feed her sacred blood meat yet. After the 2 persons and 1 cat were fed, they continued their trip. Because the centipede was too large, Han Sen was not able to gain a single mutant geno point with his full meal. After flying for several days in the dark swamp, they reached the destination. Unfortunately, all the mutant creatures they saw were too large, and Han Sen only gained 1 mutant geno point. They were at a water meadow. In the green grass stood a unicorn horse, on the back of which sat a knight covered in shiny black armor, with the black spear in his hand. Only by looking at it from afar, Han Sen was certain that it was not a human being, like Lu Weinan had said. The armor of the knights was neither metal nor stone. It was more like shell of the turtle or some kind of beetle, and there was no gap between the parts of the armor. It was very odd. Han Sen was sure that this was a sacred blood creature, and one that was very hard to deal with. It was much stronger than the stone man that Helen showed him. Just by looking at its spear and mount, Han Sen was sure that it was not an ordinary sacred blood creature. Humanoid creatures were already very strong, and this one even had a mount, which was something that Han Sen had not even heard of before. Brother, am I right? Is it a sacred blood creature? Hiding in the grass, Lu Weinan whispered to Han Sen. Yes, it is indeed a sacred blood creature. However, it looks very strong and I am not very confident that I could take care of it. Han Sen told him the truth. The sacred blood creature was so strange. Han Sen did not think it would be weaker than the holy angel from the Mystery Island. However, he did not have a second sacred blood ghost butterfly at this point. Luckily, he had the diamond sword. Even if this creature was as strong as Holy Angel, he would still stand a chance. Brother, I'll let you decide how to divide our gains. Lu Weinan thought Han Sen was expressing his dissatisfaction with his proposal and added, I am afraid that the two of us will not be able to beat it. Han Sen believed that the black unicorn horse must have some special functions other than just a mount. Lu Weinan was very positive and said, We have to try first. This kind of rare sacred blood creature must be worth a lot of money. If we happen to get its beast soul, then we will be able to make a fortune. All right, so let's talk about how to divide our gains first. I'm afraid that your proposal will not do, said Han Sen. What do you suggest? Lu Weinan looked at Han Sen and said carefully, Since you have provided the information, you could take 20% of our profits. The remaining 80% will be divided according to our contribution in the hunting. What do you think? Han Sen thought about it and suggested, Okay. Lu Weinan agreed to Han Sen's terms. This way, he could at least get 20%, while the large gangs would probably only give him a 10% cut. Also, if Lu Weinan made some contribution, he could get more. Lu Weinan had wanted to make some effort originally, because he might be able to gain the beast's soul if he had a chance to make the last attack. After the two had finished the discussion, they sneaked up on the sacred blood creature hidden in grass. Han Sen thought, no matter how strong the sacred blood creature was, as long as it could not fly, it will not be too risky for the two of them. When they were 500 feet from the sacred blood creature, it suddenly looked to their direction. Han Sen saw very clear that behind the helmet of the sacred blood creature were a pair of red eyes, as red as the flames in the hell. Before Han Sen and Lu Weinan could react, the sacred blood creature quickly urged the black unicorn horse to charge them and raised his black spear. Watch out. This guy is too strong. Han Sen grabbed the diamond sword with both his hands and used jade skin to its full. The unicorn horse had an incredible speed. It could also float above the water and did not sink. Almost immediately, the sacred blood creature was merely a dozen feet from Han Senator with its high speed. It quickly used its spear to stab Han Sen in the chest.